The gospel reading is about John the Baptist, and coincidentally today, the gospel reading is also about the birth of John the Baptist. And when we speak about the John the Baptist at the beginning of the year, and I always tell you that it's a wonderful opportunity to be given a mentor or to be given an example to live by as we start off our Coptic year. So the first day of Tut, that's the Coptic New Year. Then we have the first Sunday in Tut. Then the reading is about John the Baptist. It just happens today that as we celebrated the first day of the New Year, and this is the first Sunday after the New Year, we also get the reading of John the Baptist. It has nothing to do with the New Year necessarily, because it's how the month of Kiyah is organized, and the four readings of the Sundays are organized. And I told you that the fourth Sunday in Kiyah, we always get to hear about the birth of John the Baptist. And we hear here, when the people hear that Zechariah and Elizabeth want to name him John and not a different name that was prepared for him, as their culture was to give a name that's in the family, people started saying, what kind of child will this be? What kind of a person will this be? Truly, this person is going to be a great prophet, a great person. And Zechariah begins to speak and to glorify Christ, glorify God, right? He calls God the King, and he calls him many wonderful things, and he glorifies God and he praises God. And then towards the end of his glorification, or the thing that he was, the prayer that he was saying, he says that we ought to serve him because he is mighty and he destroys his enemies and so forth. And he says that we ought to serve him without fear in holiness and righteousness before him all the days of our life. That we ought to worship him and to serve him without fear in holiness and righteousness before him all the days of our lives. And as we begin the new year, and yesterday we spoke about 3 Ds. We said desire, devotion, and discipline. That we ought to desire to do great things. We ought to desire to change. We ought to desire to be with Christ. And then we have to be devoted to those things that we desire to do. And then we have to be disciplined and to do them on a consistent basis. So here, as we begin the new year, and it just happens that way, the prayer of Zechariah is a reminder for us that we ought to serve God without fear and to serve him in holiness and righteousness all the days of our lives. To serve God without fear and to serve him in righteousness and holiness all the days of our lives. The Synaxarium story about the saint that we read today, do you remember? Saint Ignatius of Antioch. And do you remember what happened to him? As an old man, he was given an opportunity to not be tortured. The king was like, okay, I'm not gonna torture you if you offer to the idols, if you worship other gods, if you don't disobey me. And then he says, well, I have been a priest for a very long time, and I offered sacrifices, and I'm willing to sacrifice and to offer myself as a sacrifice and not deny Christ. So for his whole life, this man has lived a holy and righteous life, and until the end, he even wrote letters to the people and said, don't worry about me, don't stop this from happening. I'm going to offer my life as a sacrifice for God. So we're reminded consistently throughout the readings and the passages in the church that we ought to live a holy, righteous life for God. What a wonderful thing to begin the year with this saying, that we ought to live and to serve God with holiness and righteousness as long as we live. So let's do that and start off the year on a good footing. And it just happens that we again hear about John the Baptist, who grows up to be a man of honor and integrity, a man of holiness, a man of courage and faith. He became a martyr. He became a saint. He's the forerunner. He prepared the way for Christ. Humility. He has all the different types of attributes that we ought to look for and to be a great mentor and example for us, especially as we begin the years, whether it's the Coptic year or this Julian calendar year. May God be with you. bless you, and may this year be full of favor, God's favor and God's grace and God's blessings and joy and wonderful things may be upon you and upon your households and your families. May you have a successful journey throughout this year, whether you want to be, whatever it is that you want to be. What are your goals? Set them and endeavor and pursue them and get to them, and God will help you as you progress in all things that you do. And glory be to God forever and ever. Amen.